Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Bethany, and today's recipe, we're making chicken parmesan meatballs. Now, if you've never had anything like this before, basically what we're doing is we're taking the ingredients from chicken parm and turning them into meatballs. It's so good. These are a recipe that are loved by so many of my relatives. And what I love about this recipe is we're using a really popular summer vegetable to add to the meatballs to give it a lot more moisture. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is prep our zucchini for the meatballs. So that's the vegetable that we're going to be using to add moisture. So I've just cut the stem off of this, and I'm just going to use a cheese grater for this, my biggest shredder area for that. And then you can also use a food processor for this too if you have like a shredding attachment. I do that as well, but this works just fine. We're just going to shred this small so that it can distribute throughout the meatballs evenly. Zucchini is one of those vegetables that when you grow it in your garden, it just kind of takes over, and you're always kind of looking for recipes to use them in. And on our website, I have a ton of zucchini recipes, but I love to include them in meatballs because it's kind of a nice way to get some vegetables in there, but it adds a ton of moisture to meatballs, so it's a really great ingredient to use in meatballs. And I was excited to share this because we've had such great success with our Italian meatball recipe. We've had a lot of people love that recipe, and shout out to my Aunt Stephanie. That is her recipe and her secret with the ricotta cheese. Okay, so we're done with that, and that should be enough. That looks about a cup. And then the next step is we have to remove some of the extra water that's in the zucchini. Although the zucchini itself adds a lot of moisture, it still has a little bit too much water to use in recipes just as is. So what we're gonna do is just kind of wring out some of that extra water. So I'm putting the zucchini out on a cheesecloth here. You can use paper towels too, but I find that they're not as sturdy and they kind of fall apart. So we're gonna go over to the sink to do this. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of wring this out over top of the sink just so we can have it all kind of fall in here. All right, so this is kind of what it looks like after it's done. It's just a little less watery, so that's perfect. And now we can get into making the meatballs. We have a bowl here with some ground chicken in it. That's gonna be our main protein for this. And now we're going to add our zucchini that we removed the water of and shredded. You're from the UK, we have quite a few readers from there. Shout out to Chris, we always see him in the comments. And he commented that when we made the eggplant parmesan, he knew it as aubergine. So if you're from the UK, you might know zucchini by courgette. So that is another term for it, which is a little bit more interesting than zucchini. So we added the zucchini. Next, we're gonna add a half a cup of breadcrumbs. They're not coming out of there, but I'm using my homemade breadcrumbs for this. They're really easy to make. And then we're going to do 4 garlic cloves. If you don't like a really garlicky taste, you can also just do about half a teaspoon or 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder instead. It makes the garlic flavor a little less intense. Then we're going to add 1 cup of freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. Not sure if anyone noticed, but we made it through 1 recipe video last week with our artichoke salad without using Parmigiano Reggiano. I'm like fully obsessed with parm, so it has to be in like every recipe, but it's so good. So how can I not love it? And I like to use freshly grated parm, just like I said in my other meatball recipe, just because it adds a lot more moisture than pre-shredded cheese and a lot better flavor. Then next we're going to add 1 egg just to bind all the ingredients together. Then the next ingredient, we're gonna do some nice bright fresh herbs. So we're gonna do about 3 tablespoons of fresh basil and about 1 teaspoon of fresh oregano. I like to do fresh oregano, but you don't have to. It's just kind of an ingredient that I enjoy putting into meatballs, although I know it's not traditional. So you can also do fresh parsley too, if you would like. So we're just gonna chop these really small. As I said in my Italian meatball recipe, There's definitely a time and a place to use dried herbs, but I think in a meatball form, it's best to use fresh. So try to avoid using dried if you can. And we're just gonna add this. And then we're gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And then we'll do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. All right, and now we can mix this together. So I'm gonna use a spoon at first. I know in my Italian meatball recipe, I talked about how you have to use your hands. However, it's a different story with chicken. I'm not the biggest fan of touching chicken for some reason. I'm sure there's some people that can relate, but I'm gonna just use a spoon. And then if you have disposable gloves, you could do that too. But I'm gonna just use this first, and then I'll kind of get my hands in here if I need to. But you just wanna make sure that everything is just really incorporated evenly. I made these meatballs for my 30th birthday last August, and I know, yes, I made the food for my birthday party. And all my relatives absolutely love these meatballs. They were all raving about them, and then they all have made them ever since having them there. So they're definitely popular in my family. It's the perfect summer Italian meatball recipe because you can use your summer garden zucchini in it. Okay, this looks like it's about done and everything looks pretty well incorporated. So I think we should be good to go. All right, so now that we're finished mixing the meatballs, we can get them on our baking sheet to bake in the oven. So I have just kind of a large cookie sheet here, and we're just going to lightly spray this with a little bit of avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil. Don't really love those fake cooking sprays. You can just kind of wipe the pan too with like a paper towel and some olive oil. Just a light dosage of that. And then we're going to use our handy dandy cookie scoops. So the Italian meatballs, I used my bigger scoop. This one is more of a cookie scoop, so it's about 2.5 tablespoons, around that size, maybe even 3. I'd say this is more 2.5. So we're gonna use this to get perfect meatball shapes. And we're just gonna scoop it in here and then roll it. Any tools that I do use in my videos, I always try to link them in our description, so just always check there or comment and let me know. And yeah, we're just going to keep scooping these and rolling them out. So when rolling meatballs, you wanna just make sure that you're not really handling them too much. You're just kind of lightly rolling them and then just putting them on the pan. You don't wanna touch them too much because it can kind of come out to be a tough meatball, and we always want meatballs to be tender and juicy. So we don't wanna handle them too much, just to kind of do whatever we can to get the best results. So you just wanna form it, and then that's it. All right, so this actually perfectly makes 20 meatballs when you measure it with that cookie scoop. So again, about 2 to 2.5 tablespoon sizes. So yeah, it's perfect. I'm gonna wash my hands and then we'll bake these. Okay, so now we're going to bake the meatballs in the oven at 400 degrees for just 20 minutes. All right, so the meatballs are done baking. And now what we're gonna do is put them in some sauce and cheese, and then we'll bake them again. So I have just kind of a baking dish here. You can really use anything, glass, whatever. I'm just using a styled pan because I kind of do that for photos and making it look pretty. So what we're gonna do is first take some homemade marinara sauce, put it on the bottom of the pan. Just do a good amount so that we can nicely coat the bottom of the baking dish or pan with some sauce. And you can use our San Marzano tomato sauce for this, or as I've mentioned in other videos, favorite store-bought sauce is Rayos or Victoria. And then we're going to take our meatballs and put them in the sauce. And then next, we're going to sprinkle some freshly grated mozzarella cheese over top. You can do the sauce next, but I kind of like to do the mozzarella and then the sauce. It's just kind of the way that I always made chicken parm or eggplant parm. So this is kind of where the chicken parm comes in, is we're kind of layering them with the cheese and the sauce. This way the cheese kind of gets onto the meatball, so it's kind of nice, rather than sliding off the top after the sauce has been put on it, so. And then next we're gonna put just a little bit of sauce over top of the meatballs from wherever you can find them in the pile of cheese. And then last but not least, we're gonna put the last layer of cheese with some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. All right, so that's enough cheese. Now we're going to bake this uncovered for 15 minutes, and then at the end, I'm gonna brown the cheese on a broil for just a minute. All right, so the meatballs are done from the oven. They smell so good. Giroux is here to taste.
Cuts like butter. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That is so good.
Delicious. These are so good. If you've had our Italian meatballs, you know that we use ricotta cheese in that to get a really nice, moist, tender meatball. But with these, we got lots of parm. We got even the zucchini too for moisture. That's why all my relatives love these, is because typically chicken meatballs are just not that good. And these are so good and so tender, and it just surprises you because it's extra tender with the zucchini.
Incredibly tender. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And you can taste the zucchini, but it's perfectly balanced with all the other flavors. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And the cheese on top is always delish.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think you could use more cheese personally, but
right now this is doused in cheese, so.
so good.
If you enjoyed our Italian meatballs, these are definitely worth trying. Perfect for summer. And yeah, if you guys get to try it, feel free to let me know in the comments or review it on the website. All the reviews and all the comments are so appreciated. I have been really enjoying getting to know more of you in the comments. I've been doing my best to respond to everyone. And yeah, it's been really great to hear from everyone. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe and get to try it. Well, we're gonna go and finish these and have them for dinner with some cherry tomato pasta. We did that 2 weeks ago and it's been a favorite of ours for summertime. So yeah, that's it for today, but we hope you guys enjoy this recipe and we'll catch you on the next one. Ow, that actually hurt. It's a workout. Yeah, seriously, that actually hurts. So that's enough cheese. Now we're going to bake this uncovered for 15 minutes, and then at the end, and some cheese. Okay, you can have a little bit.